I'm Dr. Elena Sherwood. I come on live here on TikTok. I've been trying to get on here a couple of times a week and I have failed. So, anyway, I am here today because it's been a minute and I miss you guys. So, hello. Hello, Jason. How are you? I'm doing all right. I'm here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. It's a gloomy, cold day. What do we do, right? How about yourself? How are you doing? Let me know where I'm finding you today. I just mentioned I'm in Ottawa, Ontario. And do I have any other Canadians on here or any of my American friends on or wherever else on the continent I may find you? Welcome. Come on in. Let me know where I'm finding you. So I've been here on TikTok for about 3 years now, and I've only really been taking it more seriously over the last 6 months. And one of the things I like to do is give free relationship advice if people have questions that are within my wheelhouse to answer. I'm a retired couples therapist, and I did that for 35 long years. I probably did it for way longer than I should have, but we all know that, right? And that's the problem. So, when you're good at something and you do it very well, some days it's really just hard to walk away from it. So I really enjoyed it, but being a therapist, being a couples therapist, just kind of felt like that was no longer where my passion was. So welcome all of you who are coming to join me today. Let me know where you are. And more importantly, equally as important, is please let me know if you have any relationship questions I can answer. Welcome. Oh, we got all kinds of people joining in. For those of you just kind of popping in here, if we haven't met before, and if you've not been on any of my lives, this is what I do is I answer questions if you have any. I just did a recent one last night. Actually, I did post it last night. What was it? Oh my goodness, why am I drawing a blank? It was on, asking for what you need in your relationship, and why the hell is that so hard? It shouldn't be. And yet, suddenly, people are afraid to talk about their needs, right? From England here, welcome. What time of day is it there in England? I seem to think I'm either 8 hours ahead of you or behind you. It is 3:31 p.m. here in Ontario, Canada. Welcome, by the way. I'm glad you're here. That was one of the questions. That was the topic I talked about last night. I think this is pretty much the exact line I said. Things I learned being a couples therapist for 35 years. Relationships go way smoother when people ask for what they want and they let their partners know. And the unfortunate thing is sometimes people get it in their heads that the objective of relationships is to keep the peace, and it isn't. But really, it's a lot of things. But it's get to know each other better and to be together in a healthy way, and to most importantly be your complete selves. And it's when people don't deal that relationships, believe it or not, start to go bad. Because when you're not being yourself, your partner knows that. And nobody wants to be with a shell of a human. We pick people whose real selves we echo with in some way that we really want to relate to. And unfortunately, that's what many people end up hiding. It's kind of sad, right? So welcome. Oh, hello. I can't read your robo. Anyway, hi, beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Back to you. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, I'm seeing some Canadian flags here. Thank you. Let me know again if you have any relationship questions I can ask, or if there's a topic that you would just like me to start talking about here today. Oh, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate that, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of just unfortunate, right? Relationships are supposed to be, our partners are supposed to be our partners and not our enemies. And how do I become a reliable person? I love that question. Well, there are many ways, but really, so when we think about, okay, I like my friend because he's reliable. Why is he reliable? Well, my history tells me that every time I ask him for help, he's there for me. Or if he can't be there for me, I know that there's a very good reason. He answers my calls. He answers my texts. He cares about how I feel. And more importantly, if he says he's going to show up, he shows up. And if he can't make it because life gets in the way, he lets me know. And here's another thing is everything he says seems to match everything he does. Right? And so that's how you do it. You become truthful in the things that you do and the things that you say, and that you always make them match. I told my partner not to call other ladies the same sweet names he calls me, but he was rude to me. Ooh, what's that about? Did he get defensive because he didn't like that you called him out on something? Could that be? I'm just going to get another light. Like, tell me in your gut feeling what that was about. Because that's the thing, right? Sometimes there's a bigger story behind it. And so it's possible that it was just something like that. That, like, don't call me on my shit. None of us like to be called on our shit, by the way. We hate it. Especially, so I find that people really react when you hit a little too close to home. And some people confuse feedback with control. Like they start to think that nobody tells me what to do. I mean, you're just letting them know that, your behavior is hurting me. And you should always let them know. That's the other thing, right? If you don't let them know, how are they going to know to stop? How do I set healthy boundaries with myself and others? Another excellent question. I'm so glad you're here today. Well, some of that is just understanding what's yours to fix and what isn't. And many of us want to be really good friends. We want to be good employees. We want to be good peers, good family members, all of that. But we seem to think that it's our job to take away other people's problems and other people's pain. And we can't. So it's always understanding what our role is when it comes to a relationship and what it is not. So you're not the therapist. You're not their tax accountant. You're not their nurse. And so if you know what your role really is, which is sometimes just as a listening ear or a person of support. So that should help. How would I deal with a person who has depression? His attitude is unpredictable. If somebody is depressed, okay, I just talked about boundaries. And so you know that it's not your job, even if you are a qualified therapist, and unless this person is hiring you to help them, it's not your job. And so just approach them with kindness. So I love that you could sense that this person is depressed or might be depressed. And so just take all of their reactions with a grain of salt. Just kind of show them some kindness with, whoa. I mean, do not take it personally, because you know when you've done something wrong and when you haven't. And so if somebody is way overreacting, then just kind of let that flow to say, shift it to something a little gentler, like, how can I help you today? Something I can do? Like, instead of forcing your energy upon them and pushing, how about you just kind of go with the flow that, oh, wow, not the reaction I was expecting. So, like, find a place that doesn't quite go against, but also is true to you. That part is important, that you're not being fake. Okay. Hey, Mad, good to see you again. I got a question here I want to answer. Okay, I was so shocked too. He told me he doesn't see anything wrong with that. Do you believe him though? Or do you think he's just being defensive for the sake of it? Do you think he's just kind of saying, well, because from what you know of him, if you were doing the same thing, calling men the same kind of terms that you call him, hey hon, hey sweetie, hey lover boy, hey hot stuff, like how would he react? So maybe that's a discussion you can have with him when you are not upset and when he's not upset. So number one tip in how to deal with difficult situations is do it when nobody's angry or unrested. Okay, thank you for the follows, you guys. Hey, good to see. Oh my gosh, more followers. Thank you. Oh, I love that handle. Smile, love is short. Oh. What are the steps to stop being passive aggressive? So, passive aggressive, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, it's kind of like when you say something, but you either mean something else or you're thinking of something else. Somebody says, how are you? I'm fine. Everybody knows you're not fine. Or, your partner really upset you, and instead of dealing with it, you go and do something they're not going to like, or you forget something that they conveniently overlook something or forget to do something that's important to them. So it's kind of like when you're going against, but you're kind of doing it in a subtle way. So the important thing to do with this is, I love that you're catching it. I love that you're able to say, whoa, I think I'm being passive aggressive, or I know I'm being passive aggressive. And I hate it when other people do that to me. And so dig deep inside about why you're doing that. That's going to change everything. Why do I do things behind their back? Why do I say one thing, but not just kind of, why don't I match what I say and do? Thanks for all the hearts, you guys, by the way. Totally appreciate that. I'm guessing that means you're kind of on board with what I'm saying. So that's what it is just try and also match your words with your actions by being authentic. And if you don't agree with something, just come out and say, I don't agree with you. And that's it. Thank you. Let me just make sure I didn't miss an earlier comment. Okay. Thank you. You're most welcome. That one is to Mary Beth. You're most welcome, Mary Beth. Before I date anyone, you want to see the contents of their medicine cabinet. Yes. Yeah, that's something. And I don't know if you're joking or not, but so what? Right? Maybe you'll find in there some antidepressants. Maybe you'll find in there, I don't know, hair loss products, like whatever it is. Like we all have none of us are perfect. Okay. He's just being defensive. He told me he would rather stop calling me that name instead. So, Maria, my sense is there might be bigger issues going on here between you and your partner that may have not as much to do with this calling somebody else these names of affection. So I guess my question to you is, how is the relationship overall? Because I sense that there's deeper things that may not be right between the two of you. Every time I try to bring up things that bug me, he gets loud and angry. Yeah. Okay. So I did a short YouTube video on this, and the link to that is in my profile. And it's about how to have difficult conversations, because depending on what's happening at the time, people will get reactive. And so I invite you to check out that short video. And honestly, all of my videos are short, except for some of the lives that I posted up there. But the ones with actual specific thumbnails, those are all like, I don't think I have one that's over 5 minutes. And so have a look at that, because again, timing, circumstances, concurrent events can make a difference with whether or not a conversation goes well. How do you build self-esteem without ego? The reality is we all have an ego. And Our ego is there in a way to protect us, and also in a way to kind of, when you think about it, like, we kind of want to build ourselves up sometimes. We've got a job interview. We're meeting somebody's parents for the first time that are important to us. Like, there are just times that we really need this kind of propping up, right? Every time I do a video, for example, sometimes I find ways to elevate my energy, because that's the energy that you guys need. You don't need me down in the dumps, kind of whatever. And so we do need a way to kind of lift ourselves up. The problem becomes when we stay in that fake up. And so my light just turned off. The important thing to do then is to understand yourself. What's important to you about yourself? What do you really like about yourself? Because self-esteem is a very personal, deep, reflective kind of nugget. Nobody can give it to you, no matter how many compliments you get. That will only sink in for as long as you're feeling good, right? Because if you're relying on other people to build you, you're going to continue to rely on other people to build you. Well, what really matters with self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves when we're alone, when there are no witnesses, when there's nobody to judge us. Sometimes we feel down. Sometimes we're triggered by something. Maybe it's something we heard. Maybe it's something we've seen. Maybe it's something we smelt or tasted. And so we're going to be triggered and we're going to feel low. But overall, if we want to understand what's really important to us, we have to see how we do when we're alone, and we have to spend a lot of time understanding what that feels like for us and why. I know this is kind of vague, but self-esteem is a big thing. The beautiful thing about it, though, is you can do a lot more about taking care of yourself and your own self-esteem than anybody else. Like, you have so much power over that. And, it connects to what somebody else said earlier about boundaries, right? When you protect yourself, you protect your boundaries, you have a lot more for yourself. But sometimes people are trying to tell you things, and sometimes it's time to let them in. And that feels a little bit scary. So it's all about the allowing in and then the keeping out. And it's a crazy ass mixture. But it's also just going with what, organically, primally, intrinsically feels right inside. It's kind of your gut and your mind and your heart all together. This is making sense. Let me know, you guys, if you think that this is. I'm seeing all kinds of hearts, so thank you for all that support, by the way. Whoa, I got 3.4K likes on. You guys are awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. He keeps blaming. Oh, Maria, let me just check what else was before you there in case I missed. Okay, here we go. Okay, without ego. Lately, he has been so distant, but he told me he's been having anxiety, and I always want to help. Again, it's good for you to help, but it's not your job to take it away. Just in case you missed that earlier part that I said. But something feels so off, and he hasn't been acting like the man I met years ago. Okay, so there may be something happening in his life. Again, work, life stage, money, events of people he loves. Again, so there may be quite a few going on in there. I gotcha. He keeps blaming it on having too much on his plate right now, but he's been so distant lately. I feel he has fallen out of love. That's a very strong statement, but if you feel that, then let's honor that. What would happen? May I ask you this? What would happen if you had that conversation with him and you just said, I don't know what it is. I'm feeling like you've fallen out of love here. I'm feeling like you no longer love me or no longer want a relationship with me. Am I wrong? Thank you for the follow, by the way. Are you a real doctor or a doctor like Dr. Phil? Excellent question. I am not a medical doctor. I have a PhD in clinical social work. So I was a clinical therapist, a marriage therapist for 35 years, and I've since retired my practice. And my hope is to leave as much of what is in my head on this planet before my time comes. I'm perfectly healthy, by the way, but I just sort of feel like I shouldn't die with all of this stuff in my head. Okay. Oh, here we go. And somebody's saying to you, Maria, your help is a lot. Keep it up. There you go. And somebody's saying, yeah, I love it when people start supporting each other in here. That's awesome. I spoke about it a few times. He says one thing and acts way too different. I'm so confused. So tell me more about the actions, never mind the words. Remember, earlier I was talking about how to make sure your words and actions matter. So I prefer the value. I tend to give more weight to people's actions than their words. So tell me what his actions are telling you. It's tough, right? These things are tough. All these matters of the heart are tough. And unfortunately, we can go wayward. We can kind of lose our way in what relationships are supposed to be. They're supposed to be very good things. They're not supposed to be the source of our heartache. That's going to happen. If you're with the wrong person and you guys are fumbling around and doing wrong things, it's going to hurt like hell. But it's not supposed to, not that way. He replies my text lately. He doesn't call anymore. He only calls when he needs my help. I'm so scared to lose him. I don't blame you. It's possible you've already lost him. Or it's possible that he doesn't know he's losing you and he might need to get his shit together to keep you. Or it might be that there's just too much going on. It's possible also, and I say this with kindness, it's possible that there's something you're doing or you're missing that you're not picking up on. If he's agreeable for you guys to go see someone, a licensed therapist, I encourage it. Not everybody's open to that, but that would be my first step. Husband says he wants me to, hang on a second. Husband says he wants me to leave, and when I make plans to go, he starts being nice to me again. So I hate to say the obvious, but is he being nice because he thinks you're going to leave and only because I didn't say that right. This is my suggestion to you. Sit him down. Okay. Let me see if I can come up with the exact words for you, like your version of these words. Sit him down and say, you're confusing the shit out of me. You tell me you want me to leave, and then sometimes I think you don't want me to. Like, what the hell? Will that help? Here's my question to you. Never mind what your husband thinks and says or wants. What do you want? Do you want to leave? Do you want to stay? Like, this is the other part that really breaks my heart when people know more about how their partner feels about situations than how they feel about situations, because we get so focused on our partner's needs. All right, there's a couple of words here. My husband been on dating apps, chatting, then deleting apps, and caught him. And instead of accepting and communicating about it, he's aggressive and blaming me that I fought a lot is why he did this. Oh my God. All right, you can kind of see my opinion on that. But in reality, he is so addicted, and why I never felt secure and comfortable, which is why you tried to catch him, or which is why you caught up to what he's doing. Okay, I'm going to ask you the same question that I just asked the other person right before you. What do you want out of this relationship? Because sometimes people are so set on hanging on. They don't want to deal with the breakup. They don't want to deal with the separation. They don't want to deal with this grief. They're so caught up in hanging on that hanging on becomes their lives. And that's not a life. That's not a relationship. If you feel like you have to hang on to keep it, no. Like, I want everybody to ask themselves, what kind of relationship do I really want? What kind of relationship do I deserve? What kind of relationship should I have? According to what I value for myself. What I would want for my best friend, what I would want for my sister, what I would want for my own children. Heavy stuff, I know. But this is why I feel the need to have these conversations, because people don't have these conversations enough. Okay. I don't think he can change for better, and I don't deserve this, and we have a child. Don't want him. Does that mean you don't want him? The child doesn't want him? Okay. I feel so drained. I do everything. I support, care, love him right. What else can I do? Do you need me to say that? Can anybody else say it so I don't have to? Well, it is my life, and I did put myself in this position. Stop. Stop the overgiving. Stop giving so much that you are empty and you feel resentment. A clue and a hint that you've given too much is when you're resentful of others. That could mean that you either need to check in with yourself to do better about certain things. Like, you need to push yourself up. If you're feeling a little jealous, hey, that person has all of this. Well, what am I doing to get all of that if I really want it? So sometimes that's what some of that resentment is about. But sometimes it's also a bit, oh my gosh, how much are you going to take? They're going to take as much as you're going to give them. That's how much they're going to take. So sometimes you have to turn off the tap and say the well has ran dry. To grow up in a toxic environment, I don't think he can, I don't think he can change for better, and I don't deserve this, and we have a child, and I don't want him to grow up in a toxic environment. You are in a position to prevent your child from growing up in a toxic environment. You are. You can make that happen. You can prevent it. I feel like if I moved in, I won't. Let me just read this again. I feel like if I moved in, I won't find someone like him ever again. Okay, that's what I thought you meant. I feel like if I moved on, I won't find someone like him ever again. Good. I don't mean to make light and laugh at your situation. I'm just trying to kind of say, do you see what you're giving up here? It doesn't really sound like a coveted prized treasure. Not if you're feeling this way in your relationship. You see that, right? Everybody, you see that, right? If this is how you feel in a relationship, in the grand scheme of things, it's no big loss. It's hard. It's painful. It's a giant pain in the ass to separate lives again. But it's not good for you. Okay. I'm thinking about separating from myself and especially my child because it's enough. Okay. Then my suggestion to you, if you are serious about considering separation, get busy finding resources. This actually happened in one of my lives several months ago, where somebody was saying, yeah, but I don't have enough money for down payment on this. Sometimes you have to lower your standards and couch surf for a bit. Sometimes instead of finding a 1-3 bedroom house, you look for a 1-bedroom basement suite that's available now. Like, sometimes you just have to move in with your family for a while, temporarily, until you can get your feet back on the ground, until you can find a stable job, until you can whatever. But let's not let circumstances stop us from living healthily. I want to leave, but the thought of shared custody breaks my heart. My kids are so little. What tips do you have for me to face the discomfort of sharing my kids? This fear that you have is justified and normal, and I don't blame you for having them. It's why many relationships that are toxic continue, is that fear. But here's something for you to remember. Kids love you. They know who loves them and they know who doesn't. And I have seen many beautiful situations where people have found a way to make it work. And so don't let that fear stop you from having what you need. There are ups and downs with it, yes. But like everything else, when you're doing something for the right reasons and it feels right in your gut, even if it's uncomfortable as hell, the rest of the story plays out the way it's supposed to. So my suggestion to you is start talking to some of the friends you do know who have done this. Start doing a little bit more research. How do people deal with? What are the best ways to share custody? What are the legal, start enriching your brain with information that is to do with this. Thank you so much. I appreciate this a lot. You are most welcome. How do you know if the person cheated is willing to work for the marriage and willing to change for themselves? There are big questions with this. First of all, when someone's cheated, trust is a cornerstone, a foundation of a healthy relationship. My desk has 4 legs. Trust, it's like removing one of the legs. And so people tend to undervalue the severity of cheating in a relationship. What was will never will be. There's a before and an after. So my question to you is, or whoever it is who didn't cheat, who's kind of got cheated on, what do you want out of this relationship? Because if you're wanting it to return to the way it was, that's gone forever. I'm sorry to say. I prefer it if the partner was here, the cheater was here and said to me, I cheated on my wife. What do I need to do to get healthy? I would rather that's the person who approaches. Unfortunately, it's usually the person who's been hurt. And until she, whoever cheated, is willing to get help for that, to say, I cheated, I fucked up royally, I need to make some changes. Until they are driving the change bus. And let me tell you, when they're driving it, it is unmistakable. There's no doubt about it. You will see it, living proof in front of you. So go with your gut is the best thing that I can say on that topic. I know. I missed you. Hello, Samra. Okay, here we go. Somebody supporting somebody else. I scared. They may get more toxic for our decision and may react on child. Possibly, but maybe not. Maybe not. Let's assume that this parent, also loves this child. And in some situations, they wind up with new partners who are very good for the kids. This is just me talking about some of the scenarios I've seen. Okay, there's a lot of fear, and somebody else says, exactly, me too. I know, I understand that there's a lot of fear. Everybody, we're all afraid of something. So who doesn't know what fear is? Okay, I'm tired of begging for the bare minimum, so I will work on myself and stop fantasizing about it. I love that. And I'm hoping you will take it further and start visualizing what a life without this partner can be like. What would that look like? What would you do? Would you try to get an apartment? Would you try and buy a house? Would you live near your best friend? Would you move closer to your parents? Would you start visualizing these scenarios and how you would do that? While you're stopping to think about that, focus your energy more on what you do want. So instead of saying, I'm not going to fantasize about him, what am I going to visualize for myself in the future? And what can I do about that?